And now, our feature presentation.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
Guys, what's going on? You are listening to This Week in Geek. I'm Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as I'm joined on this yet another abbreviated show for TWIG. I'm joined with
Alex, the producer, who is very busy.
Yes, it has been a really busy time here for production. We are currently in the middle of video game season, sort of a video game preview and tail end of the review season for certain things.
I've heard people call it, instead of E3, it's Key 3. For Jeff Keighley.
Yeah, that works actually.
I've heard of that. I've heard of we've called it non-E3, they call it Summer Game Fest. But it was Key 3, and I've also heard Jeff Con is the other.
So yeah, we are right in the middle of our video game coverage, which means our weekly show that would normally go in this spot is currently being abbreviated because we are focusing on all the directs and presentations and showcases and what other buzzwords they want to throw around an hour of video footage around at us. That's what we're doing this week. So we are going to have probably 2 more regular shows before the end of the year. That'll probably be on the 19th and the 26th. And we'll talk a little bit more what's going to be coming out because we're going to do a little easier programming, yet more intense, if that makes any sense. And I'll tell you what I mean after. It's basically, aka more loose cannons and future imperfects. As for what I've been doing this past week, a whole lot of nothing, because my wheelchair is busted, and it seems to be like a summer tradition around House Ashqui. So what happened?
You are mobility cursed, my friend.
I really am. Like, I go hard. So a couple of weeks ago, I posted a picture on my Twitter about how far I've gone in that chair since I've gotten it. And I got that new chair. That chair was new to me in November. So since then, I've gone 650 kilometers. Since the picture I posted on Twitter, I was at 400 something. Now I've gone about 130 kilometers since that time. I get around. So that felt pretty cool, but unfortunately one of my back wheels is a little bit messed up, so they have to order a part. So I've essentially been cooling my heels for what feels like a week or two. It's only been like a week, but I'm already going bloody stir crazy because it sucks because the technician came over on the Thursday or Wednesday of last week. And the technician had just left my house. It was 11 a.m. I'm like, all right, cool. He fixed me up. I was out the door. And within 15, 20 minutes, the chair started doing it again. I got stranded across town. I actually had a person stop me like, hey, man, your wheel doesn't look too good. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm aware. So I had to call a cab and get home. So big thanks to my friend Kathy for getting me home. But so I've kind of just been hanging out at home. Kind of doing a whole lot of nothing. Actually, no, that's not true. I've watched a lot of movies this month, just sort of to prepare for some things that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I rented John Wick on VOD, and wow, yeah, we're talking about this later on this month because holy crap. And then what else have I been doing?
Dude, very quickly. Did I not tell you that there's a scene that looks like it's straight out of a video game?
Yes, I was sitting here with my friend Liam watching. I'm like, this is Hotline Miami. And
And
he's using like dragon's breath rounds and everything.
yeah, my mom watched that with me, and she's like, "Oh, I'm getting a stomach ache." I'm like, "What?" She got like VR dizzy from watching that because she's old. But she was like, "This is like one of those video games you play." I'm like, "What video game?" She's like, "Where everything gets shooty with fire." I'm like, "That's every video game."
But yeah, so I watched all those in the course of like a week with my buddy Liam. We rented Sisu last night, and that was really cool. Just go see this movie, folks. It's like a World War II John Wick, but more ridiculous. A little less realism, more superhero.
Well, the tagline of the most fun you'll ever have watching the zombies get like exterminated or eliminated or obliterated or something. That tagline's correct.
Yeah, so you get to watch Nazis blow up in spectacular fashion. It's a trip, man, and it's totally worth one taking. What else have I done this week? Started preparing for some other shows this month that we're going to be doing. Got a lot of stuff on Transformers, so expect that to be covered pretty extensively. I went to the Transformers Rise of the Beasts early screening, which is pretty cool. I got this really awesome Transformers poster. I got a Maximal patch I'm going to slap on like a hoodie or something, or I might make my own morale patch for my backpack. So it was the Maximal emblem. And I had a really good time with Rise of the Beasts. Really good post-credit scene, which really made me happy. And I'd say it's the second best Transformers movie. The first one's going to be Bumblebee. If I had to rate those movies right now, it would be Bumblebee, Rise of the Beasts, first Transformers movie, Dark of the Moon, Age of Extinction, Last Night. Revenge of the Fallen, then Last Night.
I was going to say, Last Night had better be at the bottom.
Yeah, because it's just so confusing. I mean, great robot designs in that movie, but
there are no quintessons, just Quintessa, who is an alien masquerading as a human, and Earth is Unicron, and somehow King Arthur had magic DNA that controlled alien robot dragons.
Yep, because reasons.
The only good thing in that entire movie, Anthony Hopkins found a bulldog and adopted it and got to keep it for real. That's it. That's it. That puppy wins because that's the reason the movie wins, because the puppy got to live with Anthony Hopkins.
And then I guess the only other thing I was up to this week, one of my PlayStation 5 controllers, one of my launch controllers decided to die this week. And I was like, oh, fuck, you got to be kidding me. So I found out about the wonderful world of financing via Amazon, and I got myself a Pro controller.
Where it's not even really financing. It's just they're going to split the payment up and only charge you every month.
Yeah, I was like I'll do that all day.
Zero interest, no credit checks, all on your Amazon account. They introduced that during the pandemic because they were afraid of losing sales. So they're just like, well, how can we do it? Well, we have the money to not do credit checks or charge anything, and we want people to keep buying from us. Well, if they can't afford all of it up front, at least we can get portions of it throughout the next 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, so I'm like, you know what? I've been looking for a reason to get this Pro controller. Why not? Yeah, the Edge. It's really cool.
And I did the same because I wasn't sure. Like, some tax rebate stuff came in, but not everything. But I was like, oh, it's going to be tight. But then as I was talking to you, both of my controllers have had battery issues now. Like, they're both launch editions. I got it day one, and I've used them both heavily. And they're not known for having the best battery life anyway. And the one controller battery life is probably about 80% of normal. And my main controller that I use, I try to keep using the same one so that it does wear and tear that one down first. It's only holding about a 50% charge now. And in the last 7 months, it started to drift, but only like slightly to the left, but not all the time. Like, I can sort of course correct it now and then, but it's starting to get more and more annoying. And I was like, you know what? I could get another controller to replace it for like $80 or $90. And I was like, or I could do the split payment thing, get the Pro controller thingy mabobber. And then if that happens again, I pay $23 and get a module and pop it in. And it's like, you know what? Why not? Why not? It's, I'll keep the other controllers as my backups. They're not dead, but they're, like one controller is good, but the battery isn't 100%, and one controller is aight, but with a drift. So I see what you mean. Like, I think it was time we finally got like pro controllers for it, because we have pro controllers for every other system.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you know what? Cool. I don't care for like the X amount of dollars a month. It's no different than going out and buying a transformer or going out and buying a couple of Blu-rays. I figure as long as I keep it in perspective, I'm fine with it.
And I mean, I don't think you can replace the battery in it, but if the battery eventually dies, it's something that is sort of, they kind of expect you to want to use it as a wire controller, because it has that locking mechanism to lock it in place, and that's how I'm probably going to be playing it mostly. But just the peace of mind that the drifting won't happen, or if it does, it's easy to replace. But like, we'll probably at this point keep that controller till the end of the system's life cycle, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
If our other controllers lasted us almost 3 years, and this lasts us another almost 3 years, we'll be at the twilight era of the system anyway by then. You know what I mean? So it'll be fine. And I got it partially as like just in time to play Final Fantasy. As far as what I've been doing, because you said you've been doing movies and a whole lot of nothing else right now, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's been watching, Ken's been watching a fair bit too, but the press conferences and everything for non-E3. For instance, yesterday was 2 hours of Xbox, followed by 2 hours of the PC gaming show, followed by 5.5 hours of Square showing off different aspects of Final Fantasy 16. And then at like 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning, they dropped the demo. Woke up, installed it, but didn't play right away because my battery backup had been beeping and making weird sounds. I'm like, oh God, is the battery dead? I'll have to deal with that later. I don't think it's dead. I just think it had an error. Fixed that, and I was like, I'm going back to bed. And then I woke up and did the stream for that. So it was a very busy last 15 hours or so for me that way. And we've obviously got more stuff to watch today and tomorrow. And then I think we're pretty much in the clear until, Gamescom at the, midsummer. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, so far so good. Like, we're not going to give any spoilers of what our thoughts are on that, because we're actually going to be having, we'll talk at the end of the closing of the show, but we're having other programming coming up. So it's been busy. I've been playing a little bit of demos and watching stuff for review as well. So I guess we're sort of putting together just another semi-review show here, where it's just going to be a bunch of stuff that we've had on the go.
Yeah, exactly. So coming up from me on the show, we are going to be taking a look at the early access for Starship Troopers Extermination. I reviewed that on PC. I think it's from Off-World Industries, I think is the name of the publisher. I'm also going to be taking a look at a pair of Transformers in honor of Rise of the Beast. I'm going to be looking at War for Cybertron Optimus Prime from the Gamer Edition of the Studio Series. And then finally, we're going to be looking at the G1 Classics reissue of Autobot Hound. That's right. Not played by John Goodman this time. It's going to be the classic Jeep from the G1 era that you may have got this toy back in the early 1980s from Diaclone and Hasbro, coincidentally enough. So, Alex, what do we got coming up from you?
It's going to be a hodgepodge, a mix of things from movies mostly, and maybe some TV from our friends over at Paramount, as well as Mill Creek. As I don't have any other games at the moment. Well, I have stuff I'm working on, just nothing that I can put out right now. So movies from me, it's maybe some TV, and then from you, it sounds like toys mostly.
Yeah, toys and one video game. So we got
Good.
all that coming up for you and
Good
more.
variety.
Exactly. Good hodgepodge of stuff. So we will be back, guys, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. Let's go into the reviews right here.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part. Are you? Join the mobile infantry and save the world. Service guarantees citizenship.
Greetings, troopers. It is I, D.I., or drill instructor, Mike the Birdman, because, hey, in the Starship Troopers universe, just because you don't have legs doesn't mean you can't be a part of the mobile infantry. So, yes, we are taking a look at the Off-World Industries game, Starship Troopers Extermination. This game is available in early access on Steam right now, and we got a chance to take a look at it over the last couple of weeks. Gotta say, I actually had a frigging blast with this. I think the Starship Troopers license has always been one of those things that would make a fantastic video game, and when I saw this a while ago, I was like, man, I think I actually want to try that out, and Alan was able to get us a little bit of early access. So my thoughts on this. So this is an FPS building tower defense game, if that makes any kind of sense. So there are several game types available now. There's like, how would I describe it? One is like defending a base, and like you have this like thing that gathers information while you build fortifications around it and the bugs attack. Another one is where you're constantly moving and advancing objectives, and then eventually you would build a base once you reach a certain level of the objective. Basically here, hold area B, hold area C, advance blah 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 blah, the arachnid threat goes up, and then eventually something else will happen in there, and then you would basically go to the dropships, which is sort of the way you get out of the level, and at that point respawning is disabled, and get inside the dropship before it leaves. It usually takes about 2 minutes, and it's basically all the bugs decide now you die. So yeah, there's only just the two game modes right now. There are 3 classes. There's I think the one class is called the Bastion. There's like a heavy infantry guy and one called the Operator. I only ever played as the heavy infantry person because I really wanted to play with the SAW, which is the squad automatic weapon. So basically the LMG. Although I do find the base Merida to be more than acceptable for killing bugs. There are a couple of different varieties of arachnid threats. There's like bugs that shoot stuff. There's like a grenadier bug. There's the classic tiger bug, which if you remember way back in the day when we were playing Terrible Warriors, when we played the Starship Troopers RPG game, that's the bug that killed Tom White's character, was one of those tiger elite warriors, and he basically shoved a nuke in its face to buy us the time to escape the Black Vault prison. So cool stuff to see that there. So ultimately, Starship Troopers Extermination, because it is in early access right now, doesn't have a whole lot to it other than those 2 game modes. And the building mechanic, it's fairly easy. Like you can swap between your weapon and building. Like you can build like towers, which is typically what I end up doing, because I like to have the aerial advantage. You can build gates. You can build ammo crates, bunkers, and it's pretty cool actually, especially when you, I think it's about 15-16 people can coordinate, and you can actually build some pretty impressive structures, especially if everybody's more or less on the same page. I've only died once. I have had a few crashes though. I had one where my screen shrunk to the size of a postage stamp, yet everything worked fine, so I had to leave that game. I had one hard crash back to Windows, and I've had a couple of audio bugs. I was playing this game on high settings, and it ran on my rig, but then I got a little chuggy, so I lowered things right down to low, and it runs perfectly. So I'm not the PC gaming guy on this podcast. That's typically Ken or Alex, as they have the superior program. But FPS is my genre, so that's why I got this primarily. So ultimately, I think Starship Troopers Extermination, I think it's actually a lot of fun, and I do think it's worth checking out a little bit later down the road as they start to add things to it. I really hope that this gets ported to consoles. I could see this actually being really easy to control on a console with a controller to map some of the building maybe to one of the shoulder buttons or something like that. Like, okay, press right button, that'll bring you into the build menu, hit like left and right trigger or the directional pad to choose what structure you want to build, and bingo bango done. So ultimately, I like it. I think it's fun. I think you should definitely check this out because, hey, who wouldn't want to? It's time to know more.
We need soldiers. Soldiers like Private Ace Levy and Lieutenant John Rico.
Come on, you ain't! You wanna live forever!
We need you all. Service guarantees citizenship.
Our friends over at Paramount Home Entertainment sent review copies of the Ultra HD 4K UHD discs of the Indiana Jones movies just in time for the new Indiana Jones to hit theaters. So it is all 4 pictures, so not just the original trilogy. It's all 4 that have been released in the past. So we got Raiders, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and Crystal Skull. Now these editions, they have slipcovers. There aren't any special features beyond just standard like subtitles and that sort of stuff, as these are pretty bare bones, but at a decent enough price. Like they're not going to break the bank if you're buying them individually. They, like I said, have the 4K discs available within the box, as well as a digital copy that can be redeemed depending on your country in Canada or States on various different services to get them. Now, as far as, like I said, special features, nothing much to go into here. It's pretty bare bones. Audio tracks, though, are pretty pristine. They're brand new Atmos tracks. So they are better quality, perceptually than what had been released in previous editions. And as far as the picture goes, we've got, 4K HDR, Dolby Vision enabled releases. I ended up doing a mix and match. I watched Raiders as well as Temple on my TV in the bedroom, which has regular HDR10 support and looked fantastic. And then I ended up watching Crystal Skull and Crystal Skull and Last Crusade in the living room on the 65-inch TV, which has Dolby Vision and DTS:X and Atmos and all that fun stuff. And obviously it looked a little better on that TV, but the HDR content is backwards compatible with HDR10 and it looks fantastic on my HDR10 TV as well. Now, as far as the films are concerned, I think we've, over the last year, several years of us being on the program and Birdman talking about it in the past as well, know that Crystal Skull it's hit or miss with fans. Entertaining moments within it, but obviously it's, the people made the joke for years, like, instead of jump the shark, it was like jump the refrigerator. And then the idea of it being going science fiction instead of supernatural fantasy and religious iconography. So it was like, there's parts of there that I don't care for. It's a lot of CG fest. It is quite obviously the weakest of the bunch, but you kind of need it to be part of the package. There's still entertaining moments in it. And the further back in time you go with these releases, the better the visual bump in quality has been from previous releases. So, jumping back from the Crystal Skull, which was already made in HD, you jump back to like the original trilogy, especially, as you go earlier into the 80s with Last Crusade. Last Crusade looks fantastic. I mean, it had the highest budget of the bunch initially, and it's still, the transfer is pristine and perfect. Temple of Doom always had some issues on DVD and even Blu-ray with banding. The compression artifacts are all gone. It looks fantastic. And then you go back even further, and you go to Lost Ark, and in Raiders, it's the film that's the oldest. It was the film that was filmed on the least budget, so on and so forth. And it retains just the right amount of film grain. There's no digital noise reduction done here. It looks the best it's ever looked. And I honestly think, like, if you're a fan of the franchise and you haven't, especially if you haven't had the DVDs and Blu-rays, or if you have the old DVDs and old Blu-ray sets, it is worth an upgrade to these. There aren't, like I said, a massive amount of special features. Maybe they'll do something down the line, but as it goes for like single disc releases plus a digital copy, it's a pretty good value for some fantastic movies.
This new planet is rich with sources of energy, but the Decepticons must know this too. So we must find them and stop them. Hound?
Right here, Prime.
Scout the area. See if you can locate the Decepticons.
Just turn me loose, Prime. I'll sniff them out.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to take a look at something that our friends over at Hasbro sent over for review, and I'm going to be taking a look at one of the G1 reissues you may have seen at Walmart and available at HasbroPulse.com. So I'm going to be looking at the G1 reissue for the Autobots Scout Hound. That's right, he is the military Jeep. He's the guy who can generate holograms. I think he can go invisible in the cartoon. But anyway, the last time we saw the character of Hound, at least on the big screen, he was being played by John Goodman, but I'm more familiar with the one from the original G1 cartoon and the one that came out in the 1980s. So, as far as a G1 character reissue is concerned, really glad to see this particular mold get reissued, especially in cartoon accurate colors. He's this very specific shade of green, that military olive drab. Huge fan of that. He's got his star painted on. He's got the Autobot logo. And it looks great in robot mode. Even in Jeep mode, he looks really, really, really good. And he does have additional pieces, which you do have to take off to the side if you want to have him transform properly. But he's got like a turret in the back. He's got like a gas can, a spare tire. And then in robot mode, he has his missile launcher, which is not functional. Like, you can press down the thing all you want, it won't fire. But you can detach the missile pack. You get like 3 of them in there. You can put one in his shoulder cannon and it works fine. And then he gets a kind of a gray gun for him to hold as well. So it's not casted of chrome, which I think the original one might be. I don't have an original G1 Hound, but it still looks really nice. There's a lot of really nice painted details on this, especially when you look at how crisp the detailing is on his face, how well that Autobot symbol really stands out, and again, just how vivid yellow that star is on his left side. And it's a relatively simple transformation. Something like literally you don't even need the instruction manual to like kind of figure out. And his back kibble on his back doesn't look that bad at all. Like, his windshield folds down, his wheels slide back. He still looks pretty good, all things considered. Like I said, huge fan of Hasbro doing these G1 reissues. The only thing I think's a bit of a sticking point, because you do get these things up in Canada, is the price point, and they are a little bit pricey. He is on the smaller side. He's about comparable to a core class figure, so like RC, Daniel, Spike, Wheelie, that sort of thing, Sound Blaster, Soundwave, Optimus, Megatron, G2, in that approximate scale. The other ones I've seen on shelves, you can still get Starscream and you can still get Thundercracker. I do think those are slightly better for the value just because they are bigger. They do come with more accessories. But I can't recall whether Hound was reissued back in the early 2000s when we used to see those reissues at Toys R Us from Takara from way back when. So if you've ever wanted to own this mold and you don't want to pay the G1 aftermarket prices and run the risk of loose joints or paint rub off, then honestly having Hound in his G1 accurate colors is pretty worth it. I mean, this is about the price you'd pay if you were going to buy one on the secondary market anyway that wasn't in great shape. So if you're willing to pay for something in pristine, perfect shape, you also get a really nice box too, where you see him get off the shuttle with Optimus after the battle of Autobot City, and "You got the touch, please," and Optimus kicks the crap out of everybody. I do think getting the G1 reissue of Hound is really worth your time. Again, if you don't own this mold, if you don't want to pay G1 aftermarket prices, like after like 30, 40 years, then you can do it definitely this way. And you are getting him in toon accurate colors, which I think is fantastic. Plus, he looks great to display in the box, even if you don't go that particular route.
Guys, you all right?
Just great. If you don't mind 2 tons of Inferno sitting on your head plates.
Look, you get 10 tons of boulders off my shoulder struts, and I'll get off your noggin.
CBS Paramount sent over the DVD release of season 16 of Criminal Minds, also known as Criminal Minds Evolution. For those that don't know, Criminal Minds ended officially on its 15th season a few years back, and then during the pandemic, when they were trying to get more content to come out for Paramount Plus and and internationally on other platforms, they were like, what can we do? Well, how about we bring back the crew or as many people as we can of Criminal Minds and do a more serious, methodical mini-series event that ended up technically becoming the new season of the show, because I believe, don't quote me on it yet, but I think it got renewed. And in this set, they include over 35 minutes of extra features, which are like some, documentaries. One of them is called A Fresh Start, which explains how they brought the show back. Unfolding Evolution and Rising from the Ashes. Again, stuff related to the show itself. Now, when I saw this, I saw it initially airing on television up here, and, like on streaming. I think up here it was on Disney. Of all weird things, like I just seem to remember it wasn't on Paramount Plus here initially. There were some weird things going on, but as it stands, the home video release is the DVD, which I watched the HD copy. And I'll be honest, the DVD doesn't look as good because, interlaced DVD, but it's actually pretty close. If you're watching it on something that decently upscales on a television, it's perfectly fine. It has Dolby 5.1. It's this same quality audio from when I was watching the streaming copy, which is good. The best part is obviously you're not having to stream anything, so you're not worried about bit rates affecting things. It's a steady quality the whole way through. It's in its widescreen aspect. And if you're somebody, that has already collected the series in the past, all 15 seasons on DVD, well, here you go. You can slot it right in. So it has a few extra features. It's a little bare bones on the features, but there are a few here. The picture quality is pretty top-notch for DVD. At this point, all DVDs are pretty much in the same category of being high-end for the SD platform. And it was a really good show. I'll say a couple things quickly about it because I don't want to spoil it. It's about finding a serial killer that turns out to be maybe a network of serial killers. And because they moved to streaming and moved away from broadcast television, and they moved all the way up to streaming, which is at the same level of like an HBO premium cable type of thing, they allow swearing. So there's F-bombs dropped in it. There's language that's a little more heated and more realistic to how cops and people would actually talk, because they weren't having to be worried about being on at like 9 or 10 p.m. on a broadcast channel. As well as some of it's not like overly gory, but it's a little more bloody. There's a little more things. You can see that they were able to amp things up a little bit more than what they were normally able to do on the original show. So it's a little jarring at first, because you're like, when first time you hear somebody drop an F-bomb, you're like, whoa. And then you're like, oh, okay, I'm just not used to seeing these characters do that, but it is appropriate for the scene. It's not like they just throw it in willy-nilly. Everything that happens in this happens for a reason and makes sense. So it's like a more mature take on a show that was, on for 15 years. If you haven't watched it yet, and you want to, and you already have the previous sets, this is pretty much for people that already have owned it on DVD. Because if you're somebody who just is interested, I would suggest watching it on your preferred platform of choice if there's availability, or picking up on like iTunes Digital, wherever you can find it online in HD. It's worth it. Because honestly, HD would be better than this. But and that's a big asterisk, there are a lot of people, that bought the previous DVD sets. And if you still got that in your collection, or somebody, like somebody maybe an older generation that doesn't have access to streaming, or doesn't have a lot of like HD collections, but they still want DVDs or DVDs for the cottage or something, then I would say definitely pick up the DVD set. One of the best new shows to hit streaming, and especially the Paramount streaming, Paramount Plus app, in this whole new age of streaming channels popping up during the pandemic, has been Sylvester Stallone's Tulsa King, which we heard about quite some time ago. It's just that we weren't sure if it was going to be any good. I'm here to say that after having watched it initially in streaming format, and then now on Blu-ray, I can safely say that it is one of the best shows that I feel like people probably haven't seen yet. Now, as far as, what's the story about? It is a mobster was in prison doing a lifetime sentence. Well, 25 to life, gets out after 25, finds that the world has changed a fair bit. He's not used to, he understands technology. They don't go with the tropes of, oh, it's a guy who doesn't understand tech. He's been in prison, but he kept up on it. He just doesn't understand how, the real interactions work between people. So he gets out and then gets sent to Tulsa, Oklahoma, essentially to be removed from the family when he doesn't fit into their plans anymore. Now, and then he sort of builds his own mob family there in the modern age. The special features included are there's a genesis of the show. There is more information on Stallone and how he got involved. It was actually pretty interesting. More about how they cast all the different characters, the costume design. There's stuff on the stunts in the show, how they shot on location, how they picked their location shoots. And then there's behind the stories of how every episode was made. A lot of special features involved here. There's 9 episodes. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours of special features, which is pretty darn good. As far as anything else with the show, I can't really spoil much, except that it's definitely an R-rated TV show. There's funny moments. There's also some weird pseudo connections to other shows with some of these characters, hinted at. That if you're a fan of certain shows, and I won't say which ones, you might go, wait, is that the same character from this? Is that sort of a nod or a reveal? And I believe it's been renewed for a second season. There was a point where I know Stallone wasn't sure if he was going to do it, but I think he signed on to do season 2. And again, like I said, it's one of the best shows that came out during the pandemic that I feel a lot of people weren't talking about, but I hope more do. If you're a fan of Stallone, you'll want to pick this up. Because in watching the streaming copy, I know that Paramount is different in the States and in Canada. In the States, I think they have HDR and everything. In Canada, some of the programming is 4K, some of the programming is 1080p. It's hit or miss, and it was entertaining to watch on there. But the Blu-ray actually looked better. It had better quality than the actual streaming. It's because the bit rate was just so much higher. And then obviously, the master audio surround is better than what you can get through streaming. So it is worth it if you watch the show and you want to retain a better quality copy. And I can watch it again. I've watched it, now twice. I could watch this again in a few months. That's actually just how entertaining. There's funny moments in it. It's a good comedy, dramedy mobster TV show with just the right amount of acting chops from Stallone. He's playing his actual age, which is surprising. So yeah, if you haven't heard of it, I'd say, you can go in blind and have a good time. And if you have heard of it and you went, oh, wait a minute, that's out already? Yes, it's out. Pick it up.
Cybertron, our home. For generations, it has been a peaceful world, until pride and a lust for power divided us. Now we fight enemies who were once our brothers.
Hey guys, once again, it is I, Mike the Birdman, and we're going to be taking a look at yet another Transformer, and today we're going to be looking at something from the studio series from the War for Cybertron. This is from the Gamer universe, and I actually own pretty much every figure they've released so far in this line. I've got the Bumblebee, I've got Barricade, but Hasbro sent me over the big bot himself. We're going to be talking about the Gamer Edition Optimus Prime, and it's really kind of weird because I actually bought the 2010 War for Cybertron Deluxe Class Optimus last summer thinking, man, I kind of hope they revisit this idea at some point, and then, big surprise, we actually get these figures in hand this past spring/summer. So it's kind of neat to be able to compare a studio series Voyager class to a older deluxe class and just see how much the mold and idea has improved in 13 years. So one of the biggest things to notice is obviously the size and how chunky, how big chunk this guy is, and he has some really neat features. One of the things that I really liked is you can open up his chest, and the Matrix is right there. Can he hold it as cool? No, that kind of sucks, but you know, whatever. And with each of these Gamer Edition figures, you can pop off one of their arms, and you can put this blaster that they're supposed to have, which I think is Blast Effect compatible, because in the video game they don't hold their guns traditionally, they transform them out of their like very bodies. And all the guns so far are cross compatible. Like Bumblebee has like a rifle or like a little handgun type blaster, and he has like a sword, and Barricade has the exact same kind of gig too. But I think with the Optimus Prime, he looks probably second best in the line. I think the Bumblebee's the best looking figure so far, but Optimus looks fantastic, especially considering how well he scales with some of the older figures, because I actually just recently picked up War for Cybertron Jazz, which somebody had on for like $10, and I'm like, yoink. So we scooped him up, and I've been slowly collecting some of the other figures from that line as I see them pop up on Facebook Marketplace. I've got Grimlock, I've got, as like I mentioned, the older Optimus, and I think I've got a few others in my collections I picked up for like $5 or $10 over the last year or so. But Studio Series Gamer Edition Optimus Prime has one of the more fun transformations of these, and it's not as annoying as some of the other War for Cybertron figures were way back when. The only thing I really don't like about this figure is when you get him transformed into that Cybertronian truck mode, is you look at his back and you can see his fists hiding at the back part of his vehicle mode. It just looks ugly. When you compare it against the older version, it just looks so much smoother, and just, I don't know, I have a feeling there could be like some engineering there, and it wouldn't surprise me if like a third-party company comes up with some kind of a solution, something you could maybe slap in there. So probably DNA Designs will end up doing something with it. But overall, though, when you have this figure in vehicle mode, when he has his big-ass ion blaster, he has this wicked Energon axe, he looks incredible. And I know we've got Cliff Jumper coming. I know we've got War for Cybertron Megatron coming. I hope we get so many more figures in this line. I want Jazz to come out. I want more Decepticons. Like, again, and I would love to see them do, this is a wish list, Hasbro, so I know you're listening right now. I would love to see a Gamer Edition Omega Supreme. I would love to see a Gamer Edition Trypticon, would be amazing. I don't know how you'd pull that off. Or maybe a Bruticus update would be fantastic. Or maybe Superion, or I don't know, just anything out of that War for Cybertron thing I am here for, especially if it's new, because like I said, we haven't seen a lot of these figures since their original releases. I would love to see an updated Grimlock. Again, I'm manifesting that into the universe, and that's what I want. But ultimately, if you pick up the Transformers War for Cybertron Gamer Edition Studio Series Optimus Prime, you're getting a fantastic update to an older figure in a much larger scale. He looks so good alongside those figures. Again, scale's important. He displays great, and I really hope this is a sign that somehow, some way, the universe is listening, and they'll reissue those High Moon Studios games in 4K. Because if you told me, hey, tomorrow we're getting War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, you've got my money today. So Hasbro, make that happen, please. And go see Rise of the Beast in theaters right now, because it's a lot of fun. So yeah, definitely the Transformers War for Cybertron Studio Series Gamer Edition Optimus Prime gets a Till All Are One recommendation from us here at ThisWeekInGeek.
You did it, Prime. We did it, Ratchet. All of us. Many brothers were lost today, but thanks to our combined efforts, many more will live to find a home elsewhere.
Optimus, Megatron is still out there.
And as long as we remain here, we shall resist him.
Our friends over at Mill Creek Entertainment sent a review Blu-ray of Battle Kaiju Series 01, Ultraman vs. Red King. Now this is what appears to be a new series. Like, they've been releasing the Ultraman series, and we've been reviewing them. It's got to be 3 years now or more that they've been slowly releasing everything in that franchise. And this is the first one to come our way in a slightly different box and design. It's made to almost look like almost like a newspaper printing for the slipcover for it. It's retailed at MSRP of $20 US. Your pricing may vary depending on what online retailer you go to, but what it has is this is Ultraman versus Red King. It collects 16 Red King episodes from across the Ultraman franchise, starting with the first appearance in the original Ultraman series and continuing through to 2019's Ultraman RB. Alongside the original, this collection presents multiple versions of the monster, including the animated Red King, a Red King controlled by the mind of a teenage girl, and the powered-up Popeye-armed X-Red King. So what it is they've gone through all the different Ultraman iterations from over the years, and then picked out all of the episodes from those respective shows that happen to have Red King in it. So it's kind of like those compilations you'd see like back in the day where it'd be like the best of Roseanne, and here's like a best of random. This is the best of Red King. So what is included here is a 2-disc set. There is also bonus features included. So the birth of Ultraman, a live stage show introduced by Ultraman, the Science Patrol, Red King, and other monsters to Japanese audiences. A slipcase with, it says Marvel Comics artwork. Marvel Comics / what you'd see in like a newsprint. And then there's a 12-page booklet with episode guide explaining what episodes were from what show and descriptions of each. And then obviously Japanese, English subtitles. Pretty interesting that they're going this route now instead of just like doing full complete series. It's like, here's the best of this particular villain. And it's like, that's not a bad idea. If you're a super duper fan of Red King, or you want to have just these random packages where you don't want to carry everything together, you can go to a buddy's house and go, hey, let's watch Ultraman battle a whole bunch of Red King. And you can just watch episode after episode. You can see how the progression goes over the years. Speaking of quality, it's the same quality from all the previous releases. So as you know, they're all high end, really good transfers. Same with the audio transfer's been cleaned up. Subtitles are new and well done. The menus are easy to navigate, easy to load. It's DTS Master Audio. It's all coded for Region A. So if you're in North America, it's fine. It's unfortunately not a completely region-free disc, but that depends on your player as well. So it's sort of a compact, bite-sized collection where you can get 16 episodes, with one of the crazy kaiju monsters that Ultraman fights over the last, 50 years or so. So if that interests you, I'd say check it out. You probably find it at Walmart, Amazon. Online retail is probably easier than anything else. And as it stands right now, if I look, going to their official website, Deep Discount, which is owned by Mill Creek, they've got a pre-order listing up for it because it officially comes out as of this recording in a week or two. But, I've had a chance to look at it early. If you pre-order it, it's $12, $11.99. And you're going to find something similar like that on Amazon and other places. It's a steal. It's fun, ridiculous kaiju action. In the most recent package we received from Mill Creek, they sent The Event, the complete series. Now, this was something that was in the vague recesses of my memory. I know that it was like, it was either a mini series or a series that didn't really hit, or it came at a weird time. And here, I'll give you the synopsis for it. Jump aboard the high-octane conspiracy thriller that follows Sean Walker as he investigates the disappearance of his would-be fiancée, Lila, unwittingly exposing a cover-up so big it could change the fate of all mankind. Sean's quest sends ripples through the lives of an eclectic band of strangers, including newly elected U.S. President Elias Martinez and Sophia Maguire, the leader of a mysterious group of detainees. Scott Peterson, Ian Anthony Dale, Clifton Collins Jr., Taylor Cole, and a bunch of other people co-star. It's a suspense journey where the answers only lead to bigger questions. And I remember it was like an airplane disappearance, and then they don't understand where it happened, how it happened. You know, I'm not going to spoil too much, but I have watched it. It's like they hint, like, was it an alien abduction? Was it Bermuda Triangle? How did they disappear? They're out of time, and then they're being detained and figuring. Yeah, it's crazy. And I remember being really interested in it, and I think it came out at a time when nobody watched it. And this is, released by Universal. It's been licensed by Mill Creek for release on home video. There's 5 Blu-ray discs, 928 minutes. So you get basically a whole show, or a whole season's worth on here. Special features wise, it's pretty bare bones. Audio is better than it would have been broadcast at the time, because this was dating back, a little bit. This was, if I remember, it had a DVD release back, what was that? Some time ago. I think the DVD came out, and it was one of those ones where it was like $50 when the DVD came out, and then it was 2011. Yeah, so it's like 12 years ago that it came out on home video, and it was always, in standard def on release, and then when it was broadcast on TV, it was HD. So now, for the first time ever, it was a 1080i release. You're getting a full 1080p release. It's higher quality than it was broadcast at, because this came out in 2010 when they were still doing a lot of 1080i broadcasts. So this is the best it's ever looked. It's the best it's ever sounded. If you like weird mystery, pseudo supernatural / science fiction type programs, you might want to pick it up. It is retailing MSRP of $35 US, but again, if you purchase it right now from Deep Discount or on Amazon, but Deep Discount has it for $20. That's a steal for an adventure mystery show. I really enjoyed it. I had forgotten that the show existed. I'm glad I was, reminded, because it was one that I saw the first few episodes of and never caught the rest. And now, via Mill Creek, we're able to catch up and have it for less than $20.
Hey guys, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm, of course, Mike the Birdman. He's the action producer, and thank you for joining us on yet another semi-review-orama, just because the news never stops. But we're trying to keep up with it, which is kind of a challenge that we do each and every year.
The news is entirely gaming right now, and that's going to be on separate shows.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a fairly intense time kind of covering this stuff, but again, doing this at least allows us to clear out our backlog of things we have for review and whatnot. So coming up on the site for the rest of the month, so we are going to have 2 more regular shows before we take our summer break, which will be from July 1st until August 1st. So don't bother. Actually, no, it's going to be till after the August long weekend, so deal with it. We'll figure out the scheduling. That's not to say we won't have a review show come out in that time. But that's about it.
Yeah. Basically, you might get a review show or a big special if something major happens. And we're going to have our random topic shows and stuff. It's just the difference is those can all be recorded within like a week, and we could have like 7 shows ready versus the weekly news podcast we won't be having, because we like to have our weekends free on the hottest days of the year.
So the things you can expect coming up from us, we are recording, and I'm just going to have Alex kind of pin this into his schedule that exists somewhere, I'm sure. During the last week of the month, we're going to be recording a special on the Transformers, and we're going to put that out during the first week of July, just because, can you believe, Alex, it's been close to 15 years, if not longer, since the first Transformers movie came out. So I figured doing it around that anniversary, kind of topical.
Dude, a year and a half before the movie came out, when they were announcing it was being made, I saw somebody it was on E-Bombs World. Remember, this is pre-YouTube.
Yeah.
This guy posted a video showing what he was able to make in Maya 3D, and he made a transforming car, and it looked as good as what the movie ended up being. And people were like, we were losing our mind in school. We're like, you can do this? Like they can actually do that now? And like one person was able to do it, and it looked like maybe 80% as good as Bumblebee.
Yeah,
and
it's insane.
and I was like, that was like, so like sometime between 2003 and 2005, consumer level computers and tech got to the point where you could do it. And then we were like, well, what's it going to look like? And then when the movie came out, we're like, it looks great. And we're like, there's a little too many sharp bits on the Decepticon.